We are back. Excuse me. I'm your host, Barry Waxler, here with my co-host, Andrea Kay and Dal Arias. And we have our next guest with us, a guy I've known for a good number of years, and I've been having my producer here stalk him for a while now.
Mm-hmm. He is in demand.
Jeff Nash from EquityKey. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you very much for having me.
Great. Well, before we get started, I have to tell the story of why we wanted Jeff on air.
Yeah, okay? Yes.
We were up at America's Top Planner a couple of months ago, and I was all confident that we were gonna take the award for teaching financial planners new ways to get the word out and do all kinds of great things for clients. And got up on stage, and Mr. Nash just kicked my butt.
He did. He kicked it all over Orange County.
Now you're going to get your sweet revenge by having me on air.
That's right. That's right. You didn't realize what we were going to do here. So anyway, well, tell us a little bit about EquityKey. What is it that EquityKey is, and what makes it different?
Sure. EquityKey is essentially a real estate finance and investment company. We offer homeowners an alternative to traditional debt finance, traditional mortgages. So in essence, we're partnering with homeowners in the future appreciation of their property. We simply pay them cash today, and in exchange for a share of that future growth. It's not a loan. There's no interest payments. There's no interim charges. You don't cut us a check every month. We sort of sit quietly in the background. And eventually, one day, when you sell the property or it passes to your heirs, we will share in some portion of appreciation.
Interesting. Now, you've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
We have. We actually dreamt the product up, talking about it since 2004, 2005, and initially rolled it out in 2006.
Interesting. So 2006, I know you've been through a number of iterations, but you know the product is really strictly a product of finding a different way to get money out of your home to do whatever you want with. Am I correct?
That's absolutely right. You know, the original idea was a better twist on a reverse mortgage. I mean, reverse mortgages, I think, are a useful tool. You got 15,000 people a day turning 65 in this country, and they're not exactly sure how they're going to retire. Sometimes 60, 75% of their net worth is tied up in the home, and they don't know how they're going to get to it. Most people don't want to sell, and they certainly don't want to slide back into debt after they spent 30 years paying off a mortgage. Well, this is a way to do it. They often agree with us that home prices will go up over time, so we put cash in their pocket today.
Well, you know, that's interesting. That brings up a point I hadn't really thought about. But, you know, if you go to the reverse mortgage industry, their goal is to get people 62 years old as the minimum, right? I don't think you have an age restriction at EquityKey, do you?
We don't, because while our earliest roots were in figuring out a better way to approach the retirement space, the applications of product have grown significantly since 2008. So we're seeing people use EquityKey to reduce debt, whether it's credit card debt or maybe even pay down their first mortgage. By putting the money in their pocket and then reducing debt, they're reducing how much outflow is occurring. They're improving their cash flow situation on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. We've had people use it to fund kids' education. Right, imagine a couple with 2 kids. They live in a big 4-bedroom house. They're struggling trying to figure out how they're going to send the kids off to school. They don't want to load the kids up with student debt. So here they sort of sell some portion of the future of that big house, knowing they're going to go to a smaller house someday. They fund the kids' education. 7 years later, they downsize to a smaller house.
Well, you know, I'm gonna go back on a point we were talking about a second ago and talk about that reverse mortgage, because your typical reverse mortgage incurs a debt that debt just continues to grow while the homeowner is able to stay in their home for as long as they want.
Correct.
That home could have no value to their heirs.
That's right.
Okay, if the market drops. You know, what's unique about EquityKey? What happens if we get into a property and let's say we have another 2008 on our hands, sure, and we lose half the value of our home?
Sure.
What happens to your program?
In that contract, that's actually what we're specifically designed for. We're aligned with the homeowner. If home prices go up, we'll earn more. And if home prices are flat, we'll earn nothing. And if home prices go down, we'll lose, and we will have insulated the homeowner from that drop in price, right? The reason people fear reverse mortgages is that no matter what, without regard to what happens to that asset that is the bulk of their net worth, the reverse mortgage continues to accrue in the background without regard to home prices. Home prices go down years later, they'll owe us nothing.
Interesting.
So, Jeff, how does the owner treat the proceeds from your transaction?
It's tax deferred. It's an open transaction. As yet, there's been
it's
no
treated
gain
as an option.
I think
that's very cool.
That's exactly right.
No taxable income.
Right. So ultimately, when the transaction settles, and that may be 5, 10, 20, 50 years later, then they'll assess tax based on the total gain or loss in the property as well as our transaction.
We call it walking around money.
Walking around Fashion Valley money?
Yeah. That's for you.
Uh-huh. Well, I mean, you can use the money for anything you want, though, right? There's no restrictions. So why wouldn't, you know, hey.
Yeah, people have, as I said, from debt reduction to buy a motor home and retire to send the kids to school, you name it, we've seen it used.
Interesting.
Well, you know, I'm wondering, what is the downside? It doesn't sound like there is any.
No, to be perfectly candid, we're really an equity partner. And the difference between debt, which is the only thing homeowners have available to them until now, EquityKey can be more expensive money if home prices rise. But that's the very point of it. It will be free money if it's flat, and we will lose, and the homeowner will be protected if it's down. Right. So that's the flip side to it. I mean, if you really think about home finance in this country, we just sort of feel it's fundamentally flawed. Like modern asset classes and investments have this range of tools available: equity, debt, mezzanine, derivatives, puts, calls, you name it. And yet the American homeowner has one tool. They can borrow a lot, right, and buy or sell. And this is a way to tailor their ownership experience and their risk and their cash flow in a much more suitable way.
And what type of properties qualify? What type of properties would not qualify for this?
Sure. Right now we focus on single-family detached in sort of the major California metros. So we're in San Diego, San Francisco, LA, and sort of what we call satellite metros, pushing out of those areas, like into San Jose or up into Ventura. We're in Florida as well. We do focus on single-family detached properties as well as condos in some of those major metros. So it's sort of property type and geography is the limiting component.
And value of the home, is there like a minimum? How does that work?
There are local minimums that we set, and you can find this on our website. I think a really important feature to understand about EquityKey is that when we do the deal on your house, we're not going to measure appreciation by the actual performance of the property. What we're going to do is look at how prices in your metro behaved overall. So we're going to look at a local index. It's called the Standard & Poor's Case-Shiller Index. Okay, so your $1 million house buried here in San Diego, we do a deal today. Years later, we're going to look at how much home prices in San Diego have changed, and we're going to say, okay, the home prices have gone up 50%. We think your $1 million house is worth $1.5 million. You're going to pay us based on that. The reason we do that, there's now this third-party independent referee of what has occurred. And number two, you're now encouraged to continue to improve your home and take care of it. If you outpace the index, then you're fine.
Right, and clients can, let's say the homeowner is older, they pass away, the home goes to their kids. The kids don't have to liquidate at that point. They can hold it if they want, can't they?
They can. If there's the unfortunate event that an older homeowner passes away early in the transaction, they could roll it to the next generation.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you and your investors are in this for the long haul.
Very, very, very long haul, in fact. But that's essentially our view, that if you wait long enough and are patient enough, home prices will go up in the future. It's just that not every American homeowner needs to be placing such a massive bet in that market.
Right. Interesting. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business here on KFSD AM 1450, Bloomberg radio station, streaming live on the web at financialnewsandtalk.com. Give us a tweet at CloseUpSD or find our page on Facebook. We want to hear from you. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. Here, my co-hosts, Andrea Kay and Al Arias. And our guest is Mr. Jeff Nash from EquityKey.
Now, how much money on average can on an average transaction can someone pull out of their home?
Typically 10 to 17% of the current value of the property. So on $1 million property, we pay up to $170,000. We'll let the homeowner decide how much money they want to take out and how much future appreciation they want to sell. Now, without regard to how much future appreciation they sell, and this is another important point, if you say, Jeff, I'll tell you what, we'll split future appreciation 50-50, regardless of whatever percentage you choose to share with us, we will cover you 100% on the downside. So if prices, we were in that unfortunate cycle, 2006, 7, 8, 9, prices are going down, we'll stand first in line, and we'll reduce any dollars you owe us, we'll reduce 100% and protect you from that.
Interesting. So now, I would venture a guess that you're pretty popular out there with all the other financial professionals. Financial planners you can help raise money for whatever they need for their clients.
Right.
Realtors, loan officers. Who else do you work with?
Yeah, it kind of runs the gamut of financial professionals. Mortgage professionals and real estate professionals like presenting the product again as an alternative to debt. It's fairly common in Southern California. A home costs $1 million, and here a couple saved up $200,000. they have to finance $800,000 in debt and pay a lot, and they can't get into what's called a conforming loan because the balance on that jumbo mortgage is too much. Well, if we step in alongside them and reduce their debt balance from $800,000, say, to $600,000, you cut their debt balance down by a quarter, and now they can probably get into a conforming loan at a cheaper rate. So mortgage professionals, real estate guys like it. Financial professionals and advisors, they look at a client's portfolio and say, you're 75% of your total balance sheet is tied up in one house. You're not very diversified. And so they'll use this as a way to reduce that risk and maybe put that money into other income-generating assets.
How does this show up on a financial statement? I mean, if the client has, let's say they had $1 million home, they had a $500,000 first, and they go and they take $100,000 on this, does that debt even show up on their financial statement?
No, as I said, it's the tax treatment is deferred because it's still an open transaction. They're going to have this deferred contingent liability to us some years.
Basically an option.
That's right.
It is an option, and I have to venture a guess to say it makes their financial statement look a hell of a lot better.
Especially depending on what they're doing. If they're generally reducing debt, then they're in essence less leveraged into home finance. I mean, if you think about it, if I told you guys that I was going to go out like any renter turning buyer, and I was going to borrow 4 times my net worth and buy one individual investment, you'd call me out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And people do that all the time when they buy a house. They just don't think about it that way. And if I later told you that 30 years later after I paid off that investment, 75% of my net worth was in one thing that I couldn't touch to fund my retirement, it's a broken construct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think about a lot of people that, when the estate turns over to the next generation, there's a house in there, and typically they have to sell the house in order to pay off the siblings or what have you, and many times one of the siblings may want to hold the house.
Sure.
This is a great option for them.
Sure. Yeah, the sibling could pick it up and settle us out and move on.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening right now in the accounting arena, and accounting principles are changing, effective basically right now.
Mm-hmm.
So a transaction like this is probably going to be treated on the balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
So your question about does it make you look better? It's probably going to make you look better, but you are going to have to report it. It's not an off-balance sheet transaction.
I know. So interesting.
But it's not going to be a footnote disclosure. It's going to be on the balance sheet.
Right.
And the balance sheet's not going to be the balance sheet. It's going to be the statement of financial position.
That's
it's
true.
crazy out there in accounting.
The big thing I look at is, a lot of people may want to get into more real estate, and this would be a great way for them to leverage their current home to buy more real estate with the cash.
Yeah, given that they're not charging themselves rent, they may take money out of their existing primary and use the money to go buy an income-producing property.
Right.
Even as much as people look at the balance sheet, what most homeowners care about is the income statement, and most of them are concerned primarily about how much cash is coming in and going out every month.
Right.
And while this may rejigger the balance sheet, what they are going to look at is say, boy, if I paid on my first and I refi into a smaller loan, or I buy an income-producing asset, $400 or $500 a month to people is real money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, see, it won't affect most individuals,
right?
Because they're not doing compiled financial statements. Unless you're a pretty big hitter, the bank is going to treat you like it treats everybody else.
Yeah. I just think about a lot of the small
you.
Local business owners here that are homeowners too. So, hey, we're starting to run short on time. Jeff, tell our listeners how they can find you.
Sure, it's easy. Go to www.equitykey.com. You can find us there. Alternatively, call us at 619-400-8960.
Great. Well, we appreciate you being with us. I will definitely be out there to follow up with you and your team and see how else we can get the word out.
Appreciate it, you guys. Thanks very much for having me.
Great. Welcome. You're listening to Close Up on San Diego Business, where we get up close and personal with homegrown San Diego business and the people that are working hard to make a difference in our community. Send us a tweet at CloseUpSD or just find us on Facebook and let us know what you think. I'm your host, Barry Waxler. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.